Hey, peace and love, y'all. It's imaraifawuyi here, coming to you live from the beautiful country of Brazil. We are here in Sao Paulo, where we live, and just wanted to chit chat today a little bit about, you know, options for families that are looking to move abroad. Brazil being one of them, but there are so many wonderful countries and places that you can get a more real life experience in, as opposed to the big stage play that is America and the U.S. government and everything that's happening there. I think a lot of us are seeking just some more authentic experiences right now for our lives and for our families' lives. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience and just offer, my services and any resources I have for those who are looking to make that move. Let's see if anybody comes on. I'm gonna wait a few minutes. I wish I could play music, but YouTube be giving you all kinds of problems. But I hope everyone's having a beautiful Thursday. I have so far had a lovely one. Just enjoying the sun. The sun is out, which here in Sao Paulo, that can be up and down. So it's nice to have some heat today. Some warmth is inspiring, and gives you motivation. I'm gonna wait a few minutes here and then I'm gonna get started. I don't go live much, so I don't expect too many people to come through, but I know folks usually come on after some time has passed. So let me see if there's any duty free, or not duty free, but any music I could play that won't get me in trouble. All right, peace, peace, peace. I see someone is on. Hopefully, a few people will start coming on. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna just get started because it's hard to say. But basically, I know a lot of you, I've been getting emails, and people are expressing concerns about living in the US right now and what that means for their lives and everything that's happening, the increasing expenses of things, um, the just kabuki theater, the phoniness and the fakeness of the entire experience for a lot of people is just worn on them. And so I wanted to just put it out there that, you do have options as a single person, as a person with a family, a mother, a father, as a single parent. You do have options. You're not relegated to staying somewhere that, doesn't feed you, that makes you feel desperate, makes you feel fearful, and just basically stops you from thriving in life. The U.S. and me have had a very complex relationship for many years. I've never, since I was a young girl, and that's been many years now, never enjoyed my life in the U.S. I always had a real sense that there was something very wrong, um, particularly because of the amount of effort that went into like trying to brainwash and control the population, right? And then when social media came on, that just went, a trillion times. So it's just an ongoing onslaught of attempts to, kind of herd the thoughts and the minds of people, particularly in that country, even though it's a global phenomenon, right? So I started traveling early on as a single person. I would just go, now I know it's the big thing and all the women are doing the solo traveling and everything, but I'm a little more old school with it, and I was doing it back in the 90s and has been doing that ever since. I soon had my first child in '05, and I mean, she got to grow up about a year in Georgia, and I was like, let's hit it, and we've been on the road pretty much ever since. And we don't like to travel and dart in and out of places. That's not our style. We like to go and, kind of absorb and immerse and settle in the spots. So we have lived in so many different countries. And sometimes it'll be 6 months, sometimes it might be a year and a half or two. It just depends. Sometimes, for instance, when we had been living in the Caribbean, we were kind of back and forth, but we stayed. It wasn't another country, it was still U.S. territory, but we stayed in the Virgin Islands, back and forth over a 10-year span. So it just kind of depends, it just kind of depends. I don't see anyone in here, and I'm a little worried. I'm wondering how my sound is doing, so give me 1 second to check that out, and then I will be back. Focus. I'm just trying to see how I can even look at my live stream or see it. Okay, hey, hey, peace and love, peace and love. Can you hear me? Can you like write me something and let me know if you can hear me? Because I'm so scared to like do a whole video and have no sound. And I'm on StreamYard. I'm not really fully sure how things go on here because I don't use it much. But yeah, y'all. What I was saying though is that you have choice, you have options. You're not relegated to the U.S. There's so many ways to make money, as we know. Hi, you can hear me, James. Peace. As a solo parent, as a parent in a family unit with mom and dad, whatever it is, you are always going to have options to free yourself and to create a new life for yourself, even in another country. So, peace and love and welcome, whoever's on. So, first thing I wanted to talk about is, the importance of the preparation period. And the preparation period, I mean, really just starts first with the vision and the knowing that there are so many families that are out here doing what it is you seek to do, living abroad, making it happen, working, if you decide to have a job, working online, making sure they have money coming from overseas, but moving somewhere where they can live better with their children, with their family. They can pay less for their lifestyle and their overhead and still have a higher quality of life even with that. So, there's a lot of options for us. You can work, you can establish a business online, you can contract out, which is easier, in terms of being at a distance. It's harder to get an actual job and be able to be remote, unless it's with a company that is very much an international company. But finding contracts that you can work and be wherever you want in the world is really another option. Teaching English online is an option. There are so many things you can do, but the first thing you have to do is have that vision and that understanding that, I don't have to look at this as some big daunting task. It is a task that can happen. I can make this happen for me and my family just by taking the proper steps and measures and going through the preparation, right? And so for me, always obviously economics is going to be number one, so knowing how you're going to have income, knowing what kind of passive money you might be having coming in, knowing what investments, you'll be able to tap into if you need to, just knowing what, your expenses are going to look like for you for the long haul is very important when you're getting ready to take a trip or make a long-term move abroad, because you need to understand what kind of impact the money and the wealth and what you have is going to make when you're overseas. Most of us are choosing countries where we can bring our U.S. money and be able to live, way easier in that country. For instance, here in Brazil, it's not cheap. I live in the most expensive part of Brazil, even though there are a lot of expensive parts of Brazil, but Sao Paulo is up there. And then I happen to live in, kind of like the most, a very higher end neighborhood. And with that being said, it's still cheaper, it's still more affordable than living in a U.S. territory or living in Florida, where I used to live, or living in St. Croix in the Virgin Islands. I still have a higher quality of life here in Sao Paulo, even with it being this huge megapolis, huge city, higher quality of life, more access to healthy foods, more access to enjoyment and conveniences. It's very online with everything, so everything is easy in terms of getting things done, accomplished. The amenities are intact, and I'm still paying way less than I did to live if I was living at that same level in the Virgin Islands. And I was making more money when I was in VI, a lot of money, but and we lived more we lived more humbly, because if we tried to live on the level that you would want to live out there, you just, for a family of three, you easily drop in 10, 11, 12K a month, easily. So we had to live a little more humbly. But here everything's blessed. We're getting ready to move into a bigger apartment. We just have everything out here. It's very comfortable, which is why I chose Sao Paulo. For those that like the city life, they like the arts and culture scene, they like a lot of live music and all of that. Sao Paulo is a very good choice. But there are people who, when they think about Brazil, they think about the huge black Afro population here, and they want to tap into that more easily. So Sao Paulo, while there's more people that look like me here than anywhere else in Brazil, it's spread out and it's more difficult, and you don't know exactly where to go to really tap into the culture all the way all the time. It's a little more mystified here in Sao Paulo until you get to know the city more. Whereas you go up to Bahia, Salvador, where everybody loves to live. The first place I ever lived in Brazil, 20 something years ago, and it's just Afro everything. It's just lit. It's all right there. The culture, everything is just right there. Either you like that, you enjoy that, you need that, or you don't. For me, I've lived in Salvador. I lived in Itacare, which is another part of Bahia, very beautiful nature-esque part that still has all the cultural stuff too. Very beautiful place. But I chose Sao Paulo, which is more international, more access to cuisine from all over the world, tons of black folk, but you might not see it in every neighborhood. You got to kind of know how to maneuver. Lots of vibes, all the shows come here, tons of live music. I sing, and my daughter plays bass, so we like to have access to the music scene in case we want to jump in and do something. Yeah, man, it is really about what you're looking for. So, once you've kind of honed in on how much it's going to cost to make this shift and move to this new location, you need to start thinking about also, what am I looking for? Am I looking to go be on the beach somewhere in a quiet place with my children, or am I looking for somewhere where I can network more, be out there, maybe make more friends, maybe my children will have more community to tap into. It just depends, and as you know, every place comes with its pluses and its negatives. So, you have to kind of um, weigh everything and know exactly what it is you're looking for and take notes on it. Create a Google Doc and start writing down like what you want your life to look like. Envision it, see it, and then start to consider all of the things. So really it's in reverse. The first thing is the vision of how you want your life to look, what you want life abroad to be for you and your family, and then start to consider the details, the finances, how easy it is in the country that you're looking at to actually stay. A lot of people who aren't very traveled don't realize you can't just take your passport and go stay somewhere. Like most of these countries are very much limiting in the amount of time that you can be there. A lot of them are asking for visas. Brazil, for many, many years, had not been requesting visas from American citizens, but just started that rule again. So, you will need to have visas and be able to show proof of income before entering Brazil, supposedly, as of this month, even. It's a very recent thing. So, these are the details you'll need to work out as you're planning. What is my ability and capacity to be able to actually stay put if I move to this country? There are countries that are more loosey goosey about that. I know, like Grenada, in the Caribbean. There are certain countries where you can go and kind of pay for a long term residency and it's reasonable, or you can prove to them that you are a someone who works virtually, so you're a remote worker, and they'll give you a remote work visa. Brazil also has a remote visa for people who are wanting to stay for more than a year or two. I think it's renewable after a year. I think you can renew it for one more year, and that's it, from what I recall. So you have to consider that as well, because if you're coming, especially with family, you're not gonna want to come somewhere and then find out at the last minute, oh wait, I need to like do a border run after 3 months, and if I don't, I'm basically illegal. You know, these are things that you have to be thinking about. We used to live up north in Costa Rica, beautiful country, but they really only give you like 3 months. And you literally at 3 months have to like go to Nicaragua, or we were up north, so Nicaragua was closest, or cross over into another country and, make it look like it's an authentic trip. and then come back across the border. And it was like, that's cool. It's not a problem to go up to another country, but sometimes you just don't feel like doing all of that. So, for me, that wasn't. And then a lot of people, Costa Rica is so close to the US that they find it preferable, because then they know within that 3 month period, if they haven't paid for a residency, that they can just hop on a plane, go head out to Miami for like $100. It's dirt cheap, and hang out a little bit and come back. So, it just depends on what kind of, if you're someone like me, I don't like traveling. I don't care about being on nobody's plane, that now nothing that does nothing for my life. I don't like traveling. I don't get all excited about moving around. And especially up in the air. It's just not, I'm not that kind of traveler. I like to get where I'm going, post up, and when I feel like doing something new or traveling around where I'm at, then I will do that when I feel like it. Um, but I get very kind of, I hone in when I travel. Me and my children, we like to kind of get to know where we're at, vibe the culture out, see, what there is to be seen, what there is to be experienced in that region that we're in, and slowly branch out if we feel to. And so Brazil seems to be the place we keep coming back to. This is our third time living here. I have spent probably in total in my life about 3.5 years in Brazil. My kids, this is their second run. And we're just having a great time. It's just, we're having a great time, having a nice life, beyond the propaganda and the inundation of being in America, and everybody running around in fear that they're going to be taken in white vans, and that somebody's going to put some poison on the handles of their door. Not just all the weird, fearful, fear mongering bizarreness that the U.S. is dealing with. I personally don't hear about none of that out here. I'm not saying this big old country doesn't have a lot of shit going on, but I'm just saying. I mean, maybe it's because I'm not from here, and even though I do speak Portuguese, it's not like to the point where I'm out trying to read the newspaper out here or nothing like that. You know what I mean? So maybe I'm just tuned out, but I do find that when I hear about things that's happening in America, I'm like, dang, every country I'm in, and I don't, it's not all like kabuki theater. It's not all this theater all the time, all this fake, phony, bizarre news, fake news, weirdness. It's like other places, people are more grounded. The culture is more grounded. The government is, ghetto, as most of them are, but still, you don't feel like you're in the middle of a movie all the time. And so, because I personally, I don't want to be in nobody's movie. I just want to chill and have like a somewhat decent, normal life, right? And so, we find that we can have that somewhere like here in Brazil, and that you could just kind of meld in and do your own thing, and walk your walk, and be in your own lane, especially here in Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is a place that prides itself on open acceptance. So that's, of people's sexuality, that's of people's, the way you dress, the way you are. You don't feel like you're being judged here really for anything. If you're a musician, anything, you can do your thing here. You can be as eclectic and bizarre as you want to as an artist. You do whatever. Like, Sao Paulo is just a very, like, they're into accepting people, and the diversity of humanity, really. So it's a really wonderful city in that way. I appreciate it. And it teaches us a lot about how cliquish and judgmental and bizarre a lot of the cultures that we come from are, like America, or like even the Caribbean. When I was in the Virgin Islands, I mean, you had to be so fake to even exist there. Like, you can't be yourself. Like, everybody is just constantly watching you and judging you. So a lot of the countries, especially the places that are touched by America heavily, they have that. And so to come somewhere like Brazil, where it's about, being open hearted and accepting of others, it doesn't mean it's a perfect place. But yeah, that's a big thing. And that's something that, as you're envisioning where you want to go and the place that you want to be at, that you want to consider, what's the character or the feel of the country from what you understand it. Like, what is the character of the place? And really think about that, and consider, the importance of that in your decision making. Um, There's so many things because when you get into moving with children, you have to consider their schooling, their education, their ability to be connected with their families. Prioritizing their safety and them being able to have a good life outside of the weird American system, but also making sure that they aren't removed from or don't have access to some of the amenities of America, in terms of what they can have access to educational wise, they might not be able to here in Brazil, for instance. Like, my son goes to a school online, but if I wanted to put him in private school here in Sao Paulo, it would be a lot of money. And I'm considering it down the line, but he also has the option to go to public school here, which I'm not saying all the public schools are horrible in Sao Paulo. I won't say that, but Brazil isn't known for having like a top tier educational system. So it's like if I'm going to expose my son to sending him off somewhere where he's still going to have to figure out Portuguese better because he only speaks it somewhat. He's going to have to go through a whole lot of things. Also, just the whole school thing and getting around, the requirements for entry and the vax requirements and all the things. If I'm going to expose us to that, it needs to be worth it. And so I haven't decided that the public school system would be worth it. I'm sure private would be great. And we will, look more into that as we have decided to do it. But for now, he's in a school online. And that works for me and it works for him. And he's continuing to learn without all of the hustle and bustle of like getting up at 6 a.m. every morning, dragging out to go sit up in a desk somewhere. And where we were at in the Virgin Islands before here, my son was in school, and the school system was completely trashed. He was sitting in moldy classrooms, sick as a dog the entire school year because of how allergic my family is to mold. Just, like some low level stuff. So, you have to consider all of these things are very important parts of a child's life, but you have to know what is going to work best for your family and make sure that you'll be able to carry that out and do that wherever you go. And so for me, I opted with, online academy, and I'm so grateful for it. So, these are things when you're going with family, when you're moving with family, you have to consider, okay, like for me, I've been in Brazil. I've spent a lot of time in Brazil. I have the language skills. My kids, not so much. So the first time we came, I made sure I had them in language classes. They worked hard. I had them in full immersion activities. They worked hard to get it and still don't really have the language down. I mean, my daughter works harder at it. She's 20. So she's getting it. My son, doesn't really work that hard at it. He's only 13 and he has had a lot of classes and everything, but to learn a language, you really have to be communicating with a lot of the locals and a lot of people, right? And so we can be a little bit of a family that keeps to ourselves a lot. So that makes it challenging because even though I take them out to do activities or him out to do activities out in the community, it's still not enough for him to practice his Portuguese enough. So you got to think the children, if you take children to another country, they're going to feel pretty isolated if they don't have the language, and that isolation can go on for a while because they can't tap in. I mean, language is a huge part of socialization, obviously. So they can't really get in all the way with other kids without that down. So, these are the things you'll have to be thinking about when you get ready to move abroad or considering moving abroad, you know. And God, there's so many things. That's why I just live stream so I can just free flow because I will start to like really pin down individual topics and dive into them deeper. But for now, just hinting on what it's going to take and just how much of a vision and an ability to implement plans you will have to successfully move abroad with the family. But the main thing is just believe that you deserve something better, better than the US, better than the way we live out there, which I'm not dogging it all the way. I mean, obviously, the US has some great things that, you can attain. Hi, are you able to provide some remote school options that are affordable? I haven't found any that don't require my child to come back for state testing. Well, I'm not doing like, like the government schools. I'm just doing private academies. There's one I know about, Mia Academy. That's really, it's affordable, but it's more like kind of like a time for learning type of thing. But it is an actual school. Now I don't know the age of your child, Carmen, but also Penn Foster in the Caribbean, the district is so bad in the Virgin Islands that a lot of the children, especially the kids who are stateside living there, they will, as they're approaching age 13, 14, be able to go into Penn Foster, which is an online high school. Penn Foster, my daughter graduated from Penn Foster. It was $50 a month. A genuine, a genuine high school. She learned probably as much as she was going to learn in the high schools on that island. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's self-paced. So I think she graduated from high school through Penn Foster at the age of 16. So, there, that is one option I would definitely look into. It's not all the frills of, everything, and obviously it's quite affordable, but it does the job. They can still get into college. They can still do all their testing. You don't have to go anywhere for Penn Foster. So, yeah, that's a good one. And then for smaller children that you just want in a school like setting, I know Mia is good. And affordable. I think it's only like 30 something a month, but then obviously there's different tiers of private schools. So yeah, you can get into some real private schools and pay, a good bit more than that for virtual private. But those are some ideas off the top of my head. He starts high school next year. Oh, what wonderful. Well, I'm not going to say, it might not be the same as going to like a really good high school around where you live, but Pimp Foster does the job, especially if he has an idea what direction he's going in and just wants to kind of finish up and get his credits done and out of the way. Like I know for me, my kids are creatives and stuff. So like my son, I have on an art track. I don't know if he'll be able to really, we'll see where that goes for his life. But at the end of the day, it just depends. Like if they know they want to go to college for a certain thing, or they know they want to do a trade, for instance. Maybe they're a child who knows they're on a on a route to doing trade work. Then maybe it's not super important for them to go to like some amazing posh high school, and they can do the Penn Foster and still get a good education, still get all of their basics, and be able to wrap up and move on. Which for me was a benefit because I'm like, I'm not sold on the public school system. um, I didn't think it was that so beneficial that my children had to stay going to those schools in person. So yeah, check out Penn Foster. I've never heard anyone say anything bad about it. Most people have very good experiences with it. They like the freedom. The children like the freedom it provides them, and they have to just be responsible and get it done. hmm It teaches them to be responsible for their own stuff. So yeah, that was a great question. Thank you for asking it, Carmen. Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I'm going to get into breaking some of this stuff down in a more organized fashion. I'm not the most organized person, but I'm trying to learn how to do it, especially for YouTube because it's useful. But for now, if you have any other, absolutely, sis. If you have any other questions, you guys feel free to drop them here in the chat. That was just a little intro. I also wanted to just go ahead and put y'all up on my little ebook that I have. So I'm going to put the link in the description box. It's on Etsy, but it's Find Your Free as a Global Expat Family, and really just a global family in general. You might not be per se an expat where you go and just get residency somewhere and post up for years, but you might be, or you might do that. I have a residency here in Brazil and don't plan on going nowhere you know. So, with that being said, this ebook is a good way to introduce you to just some of the preparatory things that you need to be thinking about and considering when you're getting ready to make that move. And, I do offer consultation services. So I work and have been doing this for years. I do work with families directly. We do an intake. I find out what your goals are, what you want to do. My specialty and background is more Latin America, Brazil. I have lived in Europe, Hawaii, all over the Caribbean, and in some parts of Africa as well. But I say more so I'm comfortable talking about the Caribbean and Latin America, right, and Brazil. So if you are interested in a little bit more support, and it's just a little simple breakdown to help get you started, to help get you planning, this ebook could work. It's very simple. And yeah, we are also, if Brazil's on your, schedule at all, on your bucket list for at least places to visit or anything like that, and you come to Sao Paulo, I'm focused on Sao Paulo right now because that's where I'm based at this time. We offer tours. So I have tour guides that can give you city walk tours. My specialty is like the music scene and the art scene. So I can do the arts and culture tours with groups and private tours as well. And then there's just so many options. Sao Paulo is amazing if you're interested in seeing basically the biggest city in the Americas, and experiencing all that that has to offer. We can help. We also offer holistic Sao Paulo tours because I am an integrative medicine. My master's is in integrative medicine. So I can support people who are looking for more of a city that they can do holistically, that they can maintain their natural practices, know where to eat, how to find organics and all the things. So we also offer those kind of tours. So yeah, thank you so much for sticking with me. Ask me the questions, and I'm also going to put my email address in the description box so you can hit me up on email about any tours or about any consulting, anything like that. Okay? Hope y'all are having a wonderful Thursday. Peace, peace, peace.